Morning everyone and welcome back to another episode of Bareham Engines. Right guys, what is the news on the A-Series Mini starting at this end of the workshop? So, doing our usual gathering bits guys. So we've got the cylinder head all cleaned up there. All the bits on the shelf here are all cleaned up for this one A-Series Mini. John has ground the crankshaft there, obviously gathering bits, crank bearings, pistons, etc. And the same with this one here. So he sorted both cranks out by the looks of it. And we've got all the gaskets, bolts and crank bearings. Now, all I've got to do is when I finish the block that I'm doing at the minute, which is the Ingenium one, we'll show you that later on in the video, what I've been doing with that. We've got the two A-Series Mini blocks that Isaac has blasted and cleaned up there, ready to be bored to 0.5 oversize. So that is the update with the Mini there, guys. We will show you that. Looking forward to actually doing a build on that, really, once we've done all the machining. Don't think I've showed you an A-Series, and it's nice to have two on the go. With the Cosworth here, guys, I will show you in a bit what's going on the milling machine, but we have got the 0.5 pistons here for this Cosworth, the lovely RS500 Cosworth. We've got two crankshafts to choose from, but I think he wants to use the standard one, if it's all good. So that is a nice little gem, that standard crank now. Usually when we get a standard crank, what I mean by standard is standard on the mains, standard on the big ends. Usually they're at the point where they need grinding anyway, so it's very rare now that we get an original Cosworth crank that we can just put in the engine and run standard bearings on. Yeah, so we've got the pistons 0.5. I've put my own pockets in today, you can see that, and all they're waiting for now is to do a dummy build, just take what I've got to take off the top to get our 12th thou protrusion on this. The customer has supplied most of the gaskets, albeit I notice they're Ultra Parts gaskets, which are from down the road anyway, so I would have probably been able to get them cheaper for him. But people sometimes think that it's sort of cheaper if they get it, but not always, because we buy so many gaskets, we tend to get a good discount, but not on everything. The Victorine's head gasket there, the multi-layer steel, that is the one we're going to be using on this particular engine. Now, all I've got to do on this block is put the 6 long studs in the front. We've got to bore it to 0.5. It is at standard on the bore, but very strangely, I've measured it, and although it looks brand new, this block, there's a bit of uneven, odd sort of ovality in these bores. You're looking at 2.5 to 3 thou over the running clearance on some of them. So unfortunately, we're going to have to go out to 0.5. It's a bit odd that. I don't understand it because it looks, it hasn't got liners and it looks dead fresh, like a new block. So I'm not quite sure what's happened there. But anyway, we'll go out to 0.5. We've got the long studs here from Julian Godfrey. Thank you very much, Scott, over there for getting these to me. Just one message to Scott and it's all on its way. And these are the BMW oil jets that we use. What they're out of, I do not know. Obviously a BMW, but that is the part number that we use from BMW. It's just as easy for me, rather than ring them up, to just go to Julian Godfrey. They got them all in stock and they just send it me at cost, really. So yeah, that is the update on this Cosworth, guys. I've got another box here which I suspect is the clutch and flywheel, I'm hoping. So obviously when we've decided what we're doing with the cranks, we can get Isaac to balance all that lot. And get this Cosy on its way, really. I think we've got to build it into a complete motor, and he just wants it all really nice. Now, the oil pump, because we're putting the oil jets in, he has sent us one of each oil pumps. So we've got a 2-wheel drive, an RS500 and a 4-wheel drive pump, all brand new, I think. Well, this one looks pretty brand new. I'm assuming it is. If I take the cap off and just check that, the pickup that he has sent is a 4-wheel drive. So what I'm going to do is use this setup here. I'm going to block off the oil spray bar rather than start cutting it about or try and look for a 2-wheel drive, because we all know how rare the 2-wheel drive stuff is getting now. Even the 4-wheel drive, you're looking at about 250 quid for one of these pickups, even on a 4. So use what we've got, leave all the existing spray bar on and that, just block it off where it goes through to the spray bar, and we just fit our oil jets, and you've got a more efficient direct spray jet then. So that is what we're going to do on there, guys. We've got another Cosworth coming in this week, which is great. always love the Cosies. I don't know what John's playing on the computer in there, but sounds a bit noisy. Anyway, yeah, I've got new pulley here, a few new bits in the drawer. I do have to apologise because if you actually go back and watch my previous video running through this, I did have to fuzz out the customer's address, etc. I did have quite a few emails actually saying, Lee, get back and edit that sharpish, and I did. So big apologies there for that. Schoolboy error. And that is it, guys, on this Cosi. Over here, we've got a little Datsun sent in from a customer. He sent it in sort of 3 or 4 different bits. So we've got rods here, we've got pistons, a crankshaft, and the block's just turned up, balance shaft there. So we've got to go through all this, bore it, do our usual really. And I'm not sure whether, if I just have a quick look, we've got to fit the balance shaft bearing, fit the balance shaft gear, rebore, reface block, clean, etc. and just do our usual, check all the new parts. Can't assume that they're going to be correct. So yeah, little 3-cylinder Datsun there, guys. Bit of a rare one now. The 1800 K-series, guys, we have got some ductile iron liners coming from Westwood. Ordered those on Friday. They should be here tomorrow. So they're a direct replacement for the originals, but they are in ductile iron. So they're a little bit more expensive, well, quite a lot more expensive than the original spun cast. But Andrew, the owner of this, sent me some prices of stuff that he could find. There's a company that do the Westwood ductile iron liners, but it looks like we can get them considerably cheaper than they can do them for. So we're not out to make big money on the parts, we just get the right stuff. So we have got to build this bottom end. We are going to port the head, although the head is done and it's a VVC head over here. We've took that to bits now. We're going to port that, put a blanking kit on, 2 new uprated cams and run that non-VVC. So whether he wants us to put that on the head, on the block when we've done it and time it up, I'm not too sure yet, but we have got to super duperly build this short motor for him. So next step will be rods. We're going to get some new trick rods, H-section, and some pistons, whether they CP, I don't know. See what we can get, guys, but that will be tomorrow's job, to get the pistons and rods ordered and the crank bearings. Hello everyone, welcome back to the office yet again. No moans today, no court proceedings, no nuisance customers, anything like that. This is actually a part of a video that, I'm going to be honest, I've been avoiding. And the reason is I'm probably slightly embarrassed, maybe. But anyway, I've had loads of comments in my previous videos, guys. You all know how much of the Cosworth stuff I do. We're a Cosworth YB specialist. We've done tons of Cosworths, I've done for years. And I've had a lot of comments in the past and a load of emails and even people in person asking me, why haven't you got a Cosworth, Lee? Now, I'm slightly embarrassed because I haven't got a Cosworth. No, you're right. And because I specialise in the engines and go on how wonderful they are and this, that, the other, you know, really I probably should have one. You know, a lot of people who I know in the game, like PJ Motorsport, Paul and Mark there, they've both got Cosworths. Dave Pritchard, he's got an Escort Cosworth. Most people who I know who are specialising in something has one of those things. Not that you've got to, but as many of you may know, I've gone on in the early days of our YouTube channel, I've gone on about my history of cars and what I'm into, and if you've watched those videos you'll know that Ford is pretty much in my blood, really. I've always been a Cosworth fan. That's always been the pinnacle of the RSs for me and the Ford scene. I worked very hard when in my younger days to get to a Cosworth, the Sierra Sapphire 2-wheel drive Cosworth. Absolutely loved the thing. Then went on, progressed and bought an Escort Cosworth. Had that at the same time as my Sierra, actually, and it was a very nice car. Now, the reason why I haven't got one, the real reason, I'm going to be as honest as possible here, and it's probably the people that are into the Cosies who watch my channel, and they're going to say, well, it's a bit sort of backwards really. But I would say the main reason is circumstances have changed for me. Obviously, I've got my family now with 2 young children. I'm slightly older, mid-40s now, getting on a little bit. But I would say probably the main reason is cost. Now, you're all probably going to turn around and say, well, you're building this BMW. I mean, how much is that thing costing you? Before I started doing the E30 project, I was toying for quite a while in whether to buy another Sapphire or to buy an E30. Now, I'm not particularly a BMW fan, although I do like my Beamers, I like my M cars. Always toyed with buying an M3 E36 at one point, but I'm an E30. I think I'm an E30 fan. I love the E30. I've drove 2 or 3 in the past, owned a 318 IS, and I just love the cars. I love the chassis, I love the balance, I love how easy they are to drive. And then when I owned my Sapphire, and a friend of mine had his E30, but with the S50 in it, we swapped cars one evening, and I thought, do you know what? I hate to say it, but this is what I want out of a vehicle. Totally different power delivery to the Cosworth, very punchy, very predictable. The chassis just felt light and nimble and smaller than the Sapphire, less sort of wallowy. You know, I don't know what setup he had at the time, but it felt pretty good. And I've always said to myself, I will be building one of those one day. Now, I didn't plan on going to the extent of the DTM spec and all that, but as I've got older, I tend not to want to tear arse around on the roads like I used to. You know, things have changed these days. 20 odd years ago when we were tearing around, the roads were better. There was slightly less traffic, you know. And the cars, with all due respect, the cars that we were tearing around in, although they weren't as quick as some stuff these days. You know, most stuff now is over 500 horsepower. All these lads driving around in these BMW M4s and that. Mega power, there was nothing with that sort of power back then. You know, 130 horsepower in your 205 GTI was a proper quick car. But it's all changed, you know, cars are way too serious now. So it was a toss-up really between buying a Cosworth or an E30 and building one or the other into a sort of track car on the road, if you like. I wanted an out-and-out sort of thrilling experience of a track car with a cage and all the rest of it. That's what I wanted. And obviously now with the channel, we're going away, we're doing track day, so I wanted to build something that we could take away and, you know, enjoy on the track as well. Obviously the E30's gone a little bit further than I expected, but the end result is going to be fabulous. It's going to look absolutely mental, and we all know what the E30 DTM cars look like. Now, to have the equivalent car in a Sierra, I would say you'd have to go for a 3-door, a bit like the old Texaco ones and the Andy Rouse cars. You know, I would want to build probably something like that in a 3-door, but we all know to just buy a donor 3-door now is going to be pretty much as this whole build for the E30 is. So you're looking to build that spec of car 2-3 times more than what this E30 is going to end up costing. So financially, it's out of the question. You know, I don't want one that bad, you know. To buy just a road car, a nice example of a Sapphire now, you're looking at 25,000-30,000 quid, maybe more than that, to buy one in the condition that I would want. And I hate to say it, but maybe a lot of you are in the same agreement as me, even guys that own these cars. If they were 5 grand like they used to be, or even 10 grand, I would have one as maybe an everydayer. But I don't want to spend 30 grand on an old Sierra that's probably not going to be like a new one. It's still going to need work, and use it as an everydayer really. It's not going to... I've had one. I had one for years and years. I don't want a road going one anymore. The Escort Cosworth, now I apologise straight away to any Escort Cosworth owner out there or fans of the Escort Cosworth. I think we can all agree that those cars look fantastic and I pretty much bought one for the look of it. But it was enough money to have one in the garage to look at 17 grand, let alone 60 grand. So when it got to that value, I chickened out. I certainly wouldn't go out now and pay 80 grand for one. Because for me, not saying that everyone else is the same, but for me, a stock-ish Escort Cosworth never did it for me to drive. The Sapphire rear-wheel drive was way more of a car. So that's the reason, really. I think anything Cosworth now, I've got sort of, I would like a Mark II Escort with maybe a Cosworth in. That's my cup of tea. But yeah, that's the reason I haven't got one, guys. As I say, it's not that I don't love them. It's just that the prices have gone ridiculous for what I want to use it for. When I had my Sapphire and I paid £4,500 for it, it was quite a lot of money to pay for one back then. But it was not that much money. You know, it was 4 or 5 grand on one. You can afford to sort of tear ass around, and if you hit a curb, big deal, you know, you rebuild the back. But at 30 odd grand, you get into some serious money, and the parts on them are extortionate now. So that's the reason I haven't got one, guys. Not to say that I won't have one in the future. If one pops up, needs a motor build or this, that, the other, you never know what's around the corner, do you? But I'm probably not going to go out and spend the sort of money that they're fetching on one for what I want to use it for, you know. So that is the reason, guys. Sorry if that bothers any of you, but it doesn't mean that I don't love the Cosworth. It's in me blood. So, guys, it's not actually the first job of today, but it is the third job on the milling machine today on this Monday morning. And so I've done a set of valve pockets on some Cosworth pistons. I've done some valve pockets on a 4-stroke motocross piston. It was a Wasner piston, forged piston with a flat top, no pockets in it, but the original had 4 pockets, so I had to put some on that, custom. And now I've got the Ingenium engine, or the Ingenium block, on the milling machine. So, as you've seen by my previous videos, guys, I put the liners in, you can see there, machined the face of the block now. That's why it's sitting on that paper towel, so we don't scratch it. Just lightly clamped down, and as you can see down the bottom, I'm doing I suppose the con rod cutouts in the base of the liner. So you can see this one here I haven't done. If you have a look beyond the liner there, the casting is sort of cut away, and that's where it was cut out. This side not so deep, probably only about 5mm deep on this side, but about 1 inch on the other. And you can see I've done these 3, guys. So all I do is just plunge that end mill down and just trim the sides up, and that is absolutely fine. So all I have left to do on this block now is stick it on the hone in a minute, or the Della Pina hone, and get this thing finished honed, and that is job done, really. So yeah, a bit of a lengthy process putting these liners in, but a nice little mod. And as I say, these are 2025 Rolls liners, so in future reference, you have an Ingenium or come across one, we can certainly put liners in. So just show you how we do this quickly, guys. We're just lunging down, moving the block in. So we're not going wild with these end mills. We certainly don't cut in the middle of the cutter. It's on the edge of the cutter. And you can see there where it's just touching now on the aluminium. That is deep enough. So what I want to do is bring this in. I think that is it on that side, guys. Ideal.